comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out the 37.
Oh! Cabot, where did he come from? Here comes Swag.
A push for the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
Welcome to the BMW Car Club of America National Capital Chapter Sim Racing League, live tonight for the season finale here at Fuji, the Grand Prix layout for the final race of the season, 9th race, 2.84 miles, 16 turns, the layout for tonight. Going to be a 2 20-minute sprint race format this evening, like we've done all season long, and the battle is on for the championship. Steve Ficacci and Darren Treacle, the two going at it here, but I do not see... Oh, I do see Darren on track. He's in the pit lane. Currently getting some service as Steve Ficacci looks to try and improve from second in qualifying. Already up a few positions from where Darren Treacle is going to be starting. So could be a very interesting race tonight to see who takes the championship. We'll take a look at the points as we get things rolling here.
Yeah, but I'm at the back, so I might.
As we are getting things ready to go on the starting grid, let's take a look at our points coming into tonight's race. It is going to be Darren Treacle leading by 1 point over Steve Ficacci, although with the qualifying effort there by Steve Ficacci, he may very well have taken that points lead back, but this is how they enter into tonight's race. Michael Pavolano, Stefan Vappa, Brian Kennedy, Clint Fletcher, Peter Lanik, Adam Pohl, Colin Kortnick, and Callan Crocker making up your top 10, but it's really just the two at the top of the standings that are going to be fighting for this championship. So keep an eye on Darren Treacle and Steve Ficacci throughout this race tonight. Let's go to our starting grid, and then we've got to make a small adjustment to the audio here tonight. Rolling off from the front row, it is going to be Michael Pavolano and Steve Ficacci in qualifying. See if we can go to the cars that are actually starting up front, though. So those are your top two qualifiers, but rather they start inverted amongst the top 12. So we'll take a look at the driver information. Jakub Bielik, Scott Kim, Matt Gazenda, Peter Lanik, Jesse Brandon, Colin Kortnick, Darren Treacle, Clint Fletcher, Stefan Vappa, Brian Kennedy rounding out your top 10. Steve Ficacci will roll off from 11th here. Michael Pavolano 12th, Robert Benson starting 13th, Carlos Bonds showing in 14th, Perry Duncan, he'll start from the 15th spot, and Matthew Stover rounding out the field in sprint race number 1. It'll be 16 drivers headed out there. We're going to take a quick step aside for just a moment to adjust an audio setting, and we will be right back. All right, and here we are back at the racetrack, about to get things going. Field already working under pace speed behind that Porsche pace car. These are the GT3 machines, so you'll see a variety of race cars on the track. BMWs, Audis, Mercedes, we've got some Ferraris. I don't think there are any Porsches on the track other than that pace car. I know Clint Fletcher said he likes to run that one, but just not a competitive race car in this class. But definitely been a fun season, and excited to get things wrapped up here and see who takes the championship between Darren Treacle and Steve Ficacci. You can see the track map down there on the bottom right of your screen, where you can follow along with your favorite drivers throughout tonight's event. Make sure to cheer them on in chat. Let us know you're out there, who you're rooting for, and who do you think is going to win tonight's race. It's going to be a fun one here from Fuji. Pace car makes the hard right-hand turn onto pit road. It'll be Jakob Bielik and Scott Kim leading the way. Scott Kim laying back a little bit in the Red Bull Audi machine, but here we go into the zone. Waiting for that green flag to drop. And there it is. Field is off and away for the season finale. Sprint race number 1. Look at this field already going 3 wide, almost 4 wide further back down into turn number 1. A tight right-hander. And Bielik is going to lead the way. They are 4 or 5 wide in the middle of the pack. And they are trying to get that sorted out. It looks like they will do so as they drive off through turns 2 and 3. Steve Ficacci, got to keep an eye on him. The green and black machine on your screen there, fighting for the championship. Darren Treacle a few cars up in front of him. Those two separated by 1 point coming into tonight's race. As look at that, almost tried to make the move there, but in front of him, that is Clint Fletcher and Stefan Vappa, who are side by side, and that held up the 0-0. Now racing it up with Michael Pabolano, who is fastest in qualifying. Jakob Bielik, though, holding off the field as they work through the chicane. Saw a car go very wide there. That was Brian Kennedy, who I believe just missed the corner entirely. We can go back and take a look at that replay. Yeah, he just looks like he lost it under braking. Yeah, really hot in the corner, goes wide to avoid, and then back end slips out from underneath him. Luckily, he was pointed right at the corner where he had to go, but falls all the way towards the back of the field. And he is a driver to keep an eye on as well. Jakob Bielik flashing the lights as he heads towards the start-finish line. This long front straightaway, side by side for second, Peter Lanik, who was running up towards the front at the Red Bull Ring last week, early on in the night. He's racing it up side by side with Matthew Gazenda. Good to see Matt up here towards the front. Colin Kortnick gets into Scott Kim, who goes around, and I think Clint Fletcher slow to get going. So we've had a collision there. Let's see if how it all started. Oh man, Clint Fletcher comes flying in. Gets into Scott Kim. And Clint waits till Scott gets rolling again and then gets back in line. Those two fall to 13th and 14th in this one. Jakob Bielik, he's got Peter Lanik now in his mirrors. The copper machine. Matthew Gazenda there as well. Darren Treacle breaking into the top 5 already in this race. Up 3 spots to 4th. We will ride on board with him. And a different machine for Darren this week, as he goes by for 3rd position through the last corner on this racetrack. As he works down the front straightaway. Look at the battle for the lead brewing up there. That is Jakob Bielik, and Peter Lanik now going to try and get the nose out in front. He'll lead at the start-finish line. But dead even down into turn 1. Bielik on the outside, not able to make much happen there. Trying to cross him over, can't do it. And that's allowed Darren Treacle now to get into the fight for the lead. Not too far back, Steve Ficacci up to 5th position in the Rix Flix BMW. I tell you can never count out Steve Ficacci. He is always there lurking, waiting to get to the front. And when he gets out there, he's hard to catch. Surprisingly, no feature wins this season, but he is right up there in the championship fight, and I believe he has some sprint race wins. Carlos Bonds battling it up back here. He gets passed up by Scott Kim and Clint Fletcher, who are trying to work their way back to the top 10. Pretty quick laps around this racetrack, 1 minute and 41 seconds. As Darren Treacle all over the tail of Jakub Bielik, who led the first lap, but Peter Lanek is now starting to drive away just a little bit. And the AMGs are on the hunt. Here comes Darren Treacle making that move on the front stretch. Got a little bit more horsepower under the hood. That long hood of the AMG Mercedes. And he is going to secure the position. What does Jakub do with a little bit of draft on the straight? Darren goes defensive line. Not going to matter at all. He's going to be able to outbrake him. Here comes Steve Ficacci now going to challenge. He's going to get right to the back of Darren Treacle. These are your two championship contenders separated by 2 car lengths. 5 minutes into this race. Side by side a little further back, saw that was Michael Pavolano and Stefan Vappa. That is 7th and 8th position changing hands. But Fletcher has gotten around Scott Kim. He moves to 11th. Watch out for this 69 car to get closer to the front. He's a long ways back, but could see him coming out of here with a top 10 finish. Stefan Vappa, or rather Michael Pavolano, going to be able to clear Jesse Brannon. Looked like he went pretty deep in the brake zone there, able to outdo him. Now Brannon going to lose another spot potentially. Vappa going to go alongside, but not able to make the pass. He's still there, and here comes the 32 of Colin Kortnick, though, trying to take advantage of that move. Vappa had to check up a little bit now. That gives the advantage to Colin. Good battling going on back here as Darren Treacle trying to chase down your race leader. He's got the gap down to 7/10. How about this, though? Going to be 3 wide headed into turn 1. Who is going to lift? And that answer is going to be nobody, and there's a little contact between Colin Kortnick and Stefan Vappa, but Brian Kennedy made the mistake on lap 1. He flies on through to 8th. 2 Mercedes leading the way. Gazenda just went wide off the track and trying to make a move on Jakub Bielik, not able to clear him yet in the hang tight machine against Team Gasburn. Here comes Michael Pavolano with a head of steam. Hard on the brakes there, almost got into the back as they work through the chicane. Beautiful mountains of Japan in the background. They work their way through the final couple of corners. Those 3 nose to tail. Meanwhile, at the front, looks like Treacle trying to set up a good run on the front straightaway. He's closed it down to now a half second to Peter Lanek, and now he's got a draft. Don't count out Ficacci, though, to maybe get there and make a move. He's closing in as well, just under a second to the race leader. Look at that drafting speed from Darren Treacle, hitting 165 miles an hour into turn 1. Trying to force a mistake from the 12. And he may have just done that. Lanek goes just a little bit wide. Got to be careful of those track limits here. Treacle closing in. Good run that corner. He's going to try and make the move. Sends it down in on the inside. And Lanek trying to wheel it along the long lane there. And oh, there's contact. Around the two Mercedes go, and Fakachi goes through for the race lead. But Darren Treacle and Peter Lanik still sitting on the racetrack. They make contact while trying to go for the race lead. Go to a little bit of a different view so we can get a better look at this replay. Oh man, big contact for both of them. Let's take a look from the overhead camera. Just try and get an understanding of what happened. Yeah, Treacle went to clear, and ultimately Peter Lanik was still there just a little bit. They make some slight contact, and around they both go, and it's now Steve Fakachi well out in front. Past the halfway point now. He's ahead by 3.3 seconds. Darren Treacle finds himself second. Peter Lanik has fallen all the way to 14th and on pit road currently, along with Robert Benson, whose car is up in smoke. We've got some issues. Jakub Bielik, who started out front, he's gone around here. Let's take a look at the replay of that one. Oh, big contact. Was this one contact with Brian Kennedy? Yes, it was. Just came across the nose. Kennedy a little bit too deep in the braking zone, and then the 52 of Matthew Gazenda gets into him. They all get back rolling again. I think heavy damage, though, potentially for Jakub Bielik. You can see the right rear wheel actually sticking out from the fender, so that could be affecting the handling. Either way, it's not really what you want to see on a high-speed, high-downforce track like this. But he's done it again. Steve Fakachi started 11th. He's up to the race lead. Took a little help from those two getting together, but he was on his way there anyways. He's trying to drive away for the win and potentially a championship. Michael Pombolano, who was fastest in qualifying, finds himself in third. He started 12th, so a great race for him as well. The battle is really on from fourth on back. You can see these cars much tighter together. The top three very separated from everyone else as Robert Benson gets rolling off a pit road, but checks up there for the rest of the field. And one by one they go through from fourth on back to ninth. No real battles to speak of at the moment. Pretty cool shot right here as they work underneath the camera through the chicane. Jesse Brannon, the lead of this group. They do tighten up just a little bit. Stefan Vapa is starting to close in the Ferrari. I think he is the only Ferrari on the racetrack. He is. We have a couple of Mercedes, one Audi R8, one Ferrari, and the rest of them BMW M4 GT3s. So fun race so far. We'll see if these guys start mixing it up here in the last 4 or 5 minutes. Do want to let you know tonight's race brought to you by SEO Mike. You can learn more about them by using the code !SEO Mike in chat, and that will take you to their website, marketing services, SEO services. I believe in the greater Kansas City area, so cool to have them on board here in this National Capital Chapter region, which is more in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and a lot of these drivers from that area of the world. A few of them from Canada and around the United States as well. Side-by-side battle. Colin Kortnick, Stefan Vapa. And Vapa checking up a little bit there. Here comes Brian Kennedy, who's made a nice recovery. Gonna try and maybe make the move this time for 6th, deep in the braking zone. And wide goes the 32 of Kortnick, and there's contact. And they scatter a little bit, but Colin Kortnick gonna lose a couple of spots after missing the corner a little bit. A little wheel hop on entry. And that has allowed Stefan Vapa back into the top 5. Brian Kennedy up to 6th. And Clint Fletcher reeled all these guys in. He's in 8th. What a race for him to get caught up in that early wreck with Scott Kim. Make it up to 8th so far. Scott Kim back into the top 10. Nice run to do that as well. Carlos Bonds behind him in 11th position. Solid run for Carlos, up 3 spots. Jakub Bielik still on pit road. And I think he's going to call it here for sprint race number 1. You don't blame him. Went from leading this race to 14th position at the moment, and now drops to 15th on the scoreboard. The lead only growing right now for Steve Ficacci, who been down very consistent. Some of the fastest laps on track. I believe Pabolano actually the quickest at the moment. The biggest mover is Steve Ficacci. Pabolano trying to tie him if he can get up to Darren Treacle. And Treacle really needs to not lose any more positions. He's already lost out to Steve Ficacci in qualifying, and now the race could potentially lose a point or two. Gonna have to really hope that Ficacci, has a tough time of it in race number 2 if he wants any chance of holding on to this championship. It is coming down to the wire. As way offline further back, I think that's Matthew Gazenda. I am not sure what happened right there, but we'll take a look at the replay. Ooh, I don't know if he was trying. Oh, really? He bottomed out right there. Hit a big chunk of the curb, and you can see the damage on the right front. That has hurt his car, I believe. That allows Scott Kim up to 9th position. Battle brewing for 4th. Jesse Brandon, Stefan Vapa. Vapa trying to gain another spot. That would be 5 gained for him if he can take it. Carlos Bonds has brought it to pit lane. Issues for him. Moving Matthew Stover up to 11th. This is probably the battle to watch. There are 3 cars further back here. Colin Kortnick, Brian Kennedy, and Clint Fletcher. That's going to be fun to watch. 6th, 7th, and 8th. As we should be coming to the white flag as Steve Ficacci streaking past the start-finish line. And that is going to be final lap now for the 00. Comes into this race just 1 point behind in the championship, but looking to gain that point back right here in the race. Darren Treacle trying to hold on for 2nd, and I think he's going to do so. How about this? Stefan Vapa going to try and make the move into turn 1. Further back, Brian Kennedy, Colin Kortnick going side by side through turn 1 as well, but Brian Kennedy off track. And here comes Clint Fletcher trying to climb his way through. And he will take 7th for the moment. don't think it's over between Vapa and Brandon either. It looks like Vapa's pulled away by a few car lengths. Keep an eye on the battle for 6th. Oh, contact. There goes Colin Kortnick around. Clint Fletcher gets into him. And he is going to now fall to 9th as Scott Kim will get past as well. Looking at the replay. Just gets into him a little later on the brakes, and around he goes. Good job to minimize contact. Overall, as Steve Ficacci off the final corner, no contest. Once he took the lead, he was gone. And he is going to win sprint race number 1. Nice job by Steve Ficacci to maximize the points and his opportunity for the championship. Darren Treacle will come across the line in 2nd. Pabolano to 3rd. Up 9 positions in this race. Stefan Vapa 4th. Jesse Brandon 5th. Clint Fletcher 6th. Ryan Kennedy into pit lane. I think he's actually going to give a spot to Scott Kim, who comes across the line in 7th. Brian Kennedy will fall to 8th because of that. Matthew Gazenda 9th. Colin Kortnick 10th. As we will pull up the race results. There's your top 10. Huge hit there on Jesse Brandon. He goes flying through the air. Let's look at the rest of the results. Stover still working his way towards the start-finish line. Should be there any moment. Peter Atlantic, Robert Benson, Jakob Bielik, and Carlos Bonds. And that will do it for your field here in race number 1. 2 lead changes. And what was a very exciting set of battles throughout the field. Let's talk to our sprint race winner. That is going to be Steve Ficacci. We will pull him into the booth here if he's in the booth. He is not. Then let's talk to Scott Kim, driver of the race. I'm going to make Scott driver of the race. Hey Scott, this is Adam in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy? Hey man, well, great run there for you. You come home in 7th in that one, where you named you driver of the race.
Awesome.
How'd the car feel? I know you got turned around there early on, but a great recovery.
I did. I just kept at it, and car felt pretty good. And yeah, I just kept driving, and I think I was able to catch up to a lot of the crowd there, and obviously they were going at it, and a couple guys lost their spots, and I just brought it home.
Yeah, definitely a strong run. Is there anything that you learned in that race that you can carry over to race number 2?
Just keep it smooth. The tires are a big factor here. So yeah, just keep the tire wear and the smooth on the gas. And yeah, watch out for the other guys.
Yeah, a lot of contact in that first
A
race.
lot of contact. I mean, yeah, a lot of dive bombs. And I gave him a lot of room, but I still got hit. So
yeah, I think it's the high speed
well.
straightaways here. People missing the braking zone by even a few feet, right? But great run and good luck in race number 2.
All right, thanks, Adam. See you
you.
later.
That is Scott Kim, who we named driver of the day, finished 7th, or driver of the race, rather. He finished 7th in race number 1. Let's go to our sponsored break, and we will be right back with sprint race number 2. SEO Mike helps businesses of all sizes achieve higher search engine rankings to drive more traffic and increase sales. Contact SEO Mike today for a free website evaluation and quote. Mention this ad for 15% off your initial setup. SEO Mike, marketing websites on the internet since 1997. Visit SEOMike.com. here comes Milo. Big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out the 37.
Oh!
Gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from? Here comes Zwack.
A push for the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it at Auto Club.
About to get rolling here for race number 2. The field getting lined up and getting going now. It is going to be Peter Lanik starting out front. Matthew Stover going to be rolling off from the 2nd position. Brian Kennedy, he'll roll off 3rd. Colin Kortnick starting in 4th. Matthew Gazenda starting from the 5th spot. Scott Kim, he'll roll off from 6th after a great first race. Clint Fletcher going to start in 7th. Jesse Brandon starting in the 8th position. Stefan Vapa going to roll off from the 9th spot. Michael Pavolano 10th. Darren Treacle 12th, or 11th rather. Steve Ficacci 12th. Robert Benson 13th. Jakob Bielik 14th. Carlos Bonds 15th. And Perry Duncan not going to start this one. He would have started 16th, but rather he is going to be starting from pit lane or not starting at all as we go back to the front of the field. Peter Lanik trying to keep his position up front this time rather than getting turned around like he did in the last race. A couple races in a row where he has been running up front in sprint race 1 and ultimately not finished where he had the speed to. As the whole field works on past Peter Lanik. Matthew Stover, your front row. Cheer on your favorite driver for race number 2. Who do you think is going to win? It was Steve Ficacci taking the victory in sprint race number 1. We'll see if he can back it up here. He'll have a ways to go. I think my pick for this one might be Michael Pavolano, but green flag in the air, side by side, 3-4 wide as they race down into turn number 1. Look at this shot. See if they all survive it. And Darren Treacle losing some positions. He's already passed by Steve Ficacci. Those two fighting for the championship. Still 2-3 wide. Brannon in the middle. Here comes Scott Kim in the Audi trying to make a move, not able to do so. And the 00 and the 70 get through cleanly. Side by side up here for 3rd. Clint Fletcher. Rather, that was for the lead. Peter Lanik, Brian Kennedy were side by side. We've got a battle. Colin Kortnick, Matthew Stover going at it here. Got to be very careful. Tight racing. And there's a little contact down into the corner. And Stefan Vapa going to try and take advantage. The door gets shut in his face. And issues for Colin Kortnick going around in the middle of the turn. Everybody gets by cleanly, and there goes Matthew Stover. And he spins it around right in front of Colin Kortnick. What happened to each of these drivers? Just losing the back end under braking. Stover gets clipped. Oh man, big contact for him. Not sure if it broke something in the back end. It just broke traction. That's what it broke. And dangerous. Getting back on racetrack right there, but they live to race on. They'll fall to it's like 12th and 15th respectively. Here comes Matthew Stover to pit lane. Side by side, Darren Treacle, Stefan Vapa. Vapa able to hold the spot. Treacle seeing Steve Ficacci driving away. He's up to 4th, but he's got 4.6 seconds to make up on Peter Lanik, who's still under pressure from Brian Kennedy. Or Kennedy had the issue early on. It was early on in race number 1, Kennedy had that issue. Put Fletcher right up in the mix as well. He had his fair share of issues in race 1, but ultimately a solid finish. But he turned a couple cars around during that race, so something he's probably going to want to try and not do in this last race of the season. And he has got the speed. He is all over Brian Kennedy, and around goes Peter Lanik. 2 races in a row. The 12 car gets turned around from the lead. And now he's got to wait here. Get the car pointed in the right direction. What happened? Oh man, just too much throttle too early. So unfortunate for Peter Lanik, who's had the speed the last few races, just has not gotten the finishes out of it. And he falls all the way to 11th. Darren Treacle, Stefan Vapa going at it here for 4th. Treacle definitely a little bit quicker than Vapa, and he's seeing that 70 or the 0 drive away. Steve Ficacci looking like the man to beat. He's actually chasing down the leaders as well. Brian Kennedy now gonna be looking out the back window, and he's got Clint Fletcher all over him. Clint Fletcher trying to find some way around, sets up the exit of this one, can't get the power down soon enough. Kennedy holds on to it. They're going to work through the final corner. Back onto the front stretch. This is going to be a good passing opportunity if he can keep close to the 77, and he is definitely close. Let's ride on board with him. The helmet cam actually going to bump draft him past the start finish line. And not going to make the move. He's just trying to push him down in the corner a little bit faster than he wants to go. How about Darren Treacle? Is he going to be able to make the pass on entry? He clears Vapa, but goes a little wide. Goes really wide in Vapa. Doing the old switcheroo. Going to try and take it back. The Mercedes just a little too strong, though. But, oh, he's off the track again. Treacle using every inch of racing surface that he can. And finally completes that pass. Michael Pavolano on the move as well. He's gained about 2 or 3 spots in the last half a lap. Colin Kortnick, I believe, just had an issue. Yes, he did. His second one of this race. Just losing the back end under braking again. A couple of unfortunate mistakes for a driver who was up there in the top 5 early on in this race. Going to be a tough way to end this season. Battle for the race lead as they work down the front stretch once again. It is Brian Kennedy leading over Clint Fletcher, who's not quite on the bumper this time. Does he pull out and make a move? Again, just right on the bumper, not making that move. I wonder if he's just trying to push the 77 so they can get a little further away from Steve Ficacci. Work together now so that you just fight it out amongst the two of you. Tough to say exactly what the motivation is right there. Battle for 5th. Pavolano up 5 spots. Or 4 spots, rather. Trying to make it 5. Did about the 2nd or 3rd fastest car all night. Got the pole originally. Able to get a nice solid run in race 1, and now trying to get a second top 5. Behind him, it's Jesse Brandon. Started 8th, running in 7th. Jaka Bielik having a bit of a smoother race in this one after finishing in last, or near last, in the previous race. Pino Attic back in the top 10. Just trying to salvage what he can here, hoping that the driver's up towards the front maybe have some issues. Now the battle into turn 1. Pavolano deep on the brakes. He's going to go really deep on the brakes and actually try and pass 2 cars at once, but he's going to get none of them in that attempt. It's a little too ambitious in that corner. Ultimately gains the spots and then loses them right away. And he loses a little ground while he's at it. Brian Kennedy's been out front now 4 laps, trying to lead his 5th. But Fletcher just stalking him. The top 2 slowly inch away from Steve Ficacci. Stefan Vapa, he's closed up on Darren Treacle once again. But I would not count out Michael Pavolano to make another move here on the front stretch. He's going to have the draft on this super long front straightaway. I think he's just too far back this time and maybe hurt the car actually by cutting through the grass on the previous lap. This time closes up. Got to get closer and closer if he wants the top 5 out of this race. Jaka Bielik and Matthew Gazenda starting to close up on Jesse Brandon. I think that's the nature of that draft down the front straightaway. Gonna have a few 2 or 3 car battles, I think, at the end of this race, including the race leaders. Clint Fletcher still trying to get there. Definitely tough through the more technical, precise parts of this track to stay with the car in front of you when you need that downforce. But he is right there, all over Brian Kennedy. You can see he tries to go a little wide on entry, cuts it back, gets a nice straight exit. Brian Kennedy still able to put the power down in his line. Kind of a different take on those last few corners, a little tire spin. He may not be close enough because of that. We'll have to see how these top 2 approach this corner. They may end up catching up to Matthew Stover before it's all said and done. They're about 20 seconds behind him, with about 8 minutes left in this race. Stover's been 3 to 5 seconds slower than these top 2 each lap. Ooh, car going around. That is Robert Benson right in front of Carlos Bonds. They were battling for 13th and 14th right next to each other. Carlos Bonds able to take the spot away. I don't know if they made contact. No, just looks like Robert went around. And now Carlos seems like he's let up a little bit. I think he just wants to have some fun and race it out with Robert. It'll be a fun one to watch as we get closer to the end of this thing. But this is a good battle. 4th, 5th, and 6th all under a blanket. And then you've got Jesse Brannon, who's actually starting to close up on those three. And he has got Yakov Bielik all over him. Matthew Gazenda has started to fall away from the 141. Oh, and he goes for a big tail slide, and he's actually going to loop it while we're on board. Not a good spot to be sitting, but Gazenda goes around. Maybe he had his eye on the broadcast and heard his name. He's going to lose a bunch of spots. Scott Kim goes through. He goes to 11th. Scott must have had an issue at some point in this race. Yeah, he's got right front damage. Not sure if he spun off or somebody hit him. He's actually got his whole nose is torn up on that car. Into turn 1, Bielik goes for the pass. And he is able to clear Jesse Brannon. Brannon, though, cuts back, trying to take the inside lane. Not going to be close enough to do so. Good battle for 7th. These guys kind of in a zone of their own. 4 seconds behind Michael Pavolano and about 6 seconds ahead of Peter Lanick. Tell you what though, Steve Ficacci's been putting down some good laps here. He's gained about a half second on each of the last 2 laps, but I think he had a mistake in the last couple of corners. See what Clint Fletcher can do this time. Starting to run out of laps and opportunities, but maybe he's just trying to, keep his tires underneath him. Brian Kennedy, big run over the curb, but Clint Fletcher didn't take advantage. See the draft starting to work here. He starts to pull back in. Is he going to make any kind of move into turn 1? He's right on the bumper, shoving him down the front stretch into turn 1. 3 laps left in this race, and Steve Ficacci's starting to close again. Another 3 or 4 tenths take it off the leader. Bielik and Brannon still side by side. Brannon now takes the position back. Kind of a fun leapfrog situation between those two. Michael Pavolano tracking down Stefan Vapa. Tell you what, Clint Fletcher has lost a little bit of ground. He must have made a small mistake. About 3 or 4 car lengths further back than he probably wants to be. Gonna have to really be good through the next section of this racetrack. Try and close back up. Oh, but he misses that corner. Brian Kennedy starting to drive away. Clint gonna get a little bit of help on the front straightaway if he can keep it within draft range, but I think he might be too far. To see what the timing and scoring shows, it does look like, yeah, maybe just barely in draft range. He's only gained about 6 thousandths at this point on the straightaway. It's not really close enough. And it's going to be white flag next time around. Brian Kennedy is put on quite the show in this race. He's led 9 out of the 10 laps completed. After starting in 3rd, we've got side by side again, Brannon and Bielik. Kennedy again stretching out that lead. It's now 1.7 seconds. He is really putting the power down nicely. He ran his fastest lap of the race the last time around. Almost a whole second faster than Clint Fletcher, and Steve Ficacci ran his fastest as well. He's been closing up. He's under 3 seconds. Now that ticks back over as they come out of the S's there. I've got my eye on this next set of drivers, though, that are pretty close to each other. Can Stefan Vapa set up Darren Treacle for a last lap pass as they're going to be racing back to the white flag? Brian Kennedy continues to lead, and his gap 1.3 seconds. As white flag goes in the air. Final lap for Brian Kennedy. Final lap of the winter season. The BMW Car Club of America National Capital Chapter Sim Racing League. Clint Fletcher gonna have to put down the best lap of anyone all race, and it's just not looking to be the case. I think he used his stuff up, drove a little too close to Brian Kennedy for all those laps without making the move. And Steve Ficacci looks like he's on his way to a championship, but we'll have to just wait and see. Bielik and Brandon again swapping positions. Keep an eye on this one. Darren Treacle, Stefan Vapa, Michael Pabolano. This could come down to a last moment pass. Bielik and Brandon side by side. This is 7th and 8th. Not a lot of room being given. But Brian Kennedy took the lead and has dominated this one. They're closing up on the lap machine of Matthew Stover. Further back in the field as well, Robert Benson, Carlos Bonds. They're swapping positions. Out of the final corner, though, it's going to be Brian Kennedy. Clint Fletcher second. And Steve Ficacci going to come home in third. How about this battle, though? Treacle able to hold on to fourth. Stefan Vapa, Michael Pabolano, they don't change spots either. How about Brandon and Bielik? What's it going to be for these two? Racing back to the line. Not going to be enough for Bielik. Brandon breaking the draft. What a race for all of these drivers as they pile into turn one. It's Brian Kennedy, though, your race winner here tonight in the second sprint race at Fuji. What a night of racing we saw from these drivers. And how about Brian Kennedy in race number 2, taking it home? He is going to be your race winner, leading 11 of the 12 laps completed. We're going to pull him into the booth along with Clint Fletcher and Steve Ficacci. I believe Steve is going to be your champion. We're going to have to wait and see the points tabulated at the end of the season. Let's pull these guys into the waiting room. Pull these guys in here. Brian Kennedy, Clint Fletcher, and Steve Ficacci is not in here. We will we'll wait for Steve to get into here, and then we'll also bring in Darren Treacle at the end of this one. Let's talk to Brian Kennedy while we're at it here. Brian Kennedy, this is Adam in the VC booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Adam, I got a copy.
Well, Brian, you had a great battle there. All race with Clint Fletcher. Ultimately, you pull away from him at the end, but man, he was on your tail going into turn one. I don't know how many times. Were you surprised he didn't really make a move to make a pass on you?
You know, I appreciate, yeah, definitely. Clint was there the whole time, and I think he chose to, you know, play it smart. You know, we both saw Steve back there and we know how fast he is, and you know, rather than take each other out, Clint decided. I mean, there was a couple times he gave me a little bump in the back there rather than pass, so we could get a gap to Steve, and yeah, I'd say it worked out for both of us. Obviously I'm extremely happy. First,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you end the season winning the final race of the season, and man, just describe the season as a whole from your perspective, and what are you looking forward to moving into a different kind of race car next season?
So we did reverse grid this season, and I'm a fan of it. It definitely leads to a lot more passing and exciting racing, and so I think that was fun. And that's how I got my advantage. I had a poor first race and got a good spot in the grid for the second and took advantage of it. But next season, LMDH, first time in the league, so I like fast cars, so with some downforce, so I'm looking forward to that, and also the MCUK, rid of the battery and the different modes it has. That's going to add some strategy to the races, so when to use attack and when to charge it up. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be very exciting and definitely higher speed than the GT3 cars. But man, you put on a show for us here in race number 2 and take the victory. Anybody you want to give a shout out to, for this race and this season?
yeah, Scott for running the league. Thank you, Scott. Team Gasburn, great group of guys met in the sim and all friends, and enjoy the sim sports. So. And
Awesome.
V-Speed too. You guys have done a great job on the races you've covered. Looking forward to continuing with you next season.
Yeah, and it's going to be all 9 races next season, so really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to be back full time, and yeah, great race. Way to end the season on the highest of notes, and we will see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Brian Kennedy, race winner in the final race of the season. Let's go to Clint Fletcher now, who comes home in the 2nd position. Hey Clint, this is Adam in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Well, man, you were right there on the bumper going into turn 1. I don't know how many laps in a row. Didn't make the move ultimately. Heard from Brian that you guys were trying to just push away from Steve in 3rd. But man, are you kind of regretting not making a move when you had the shot there?
Yes and no. I mean, Brian and I think, are pretty close in points, and just to get away from Steve after probably what I'll probably end up with some penalties in that first heat. So 2nd place is good enough for me.
Yeah, definitely. Up and down first race for you. You charge back through the field and get a nice solid finish. But this is the last race of the season. You end on a pretty good note here. How do you feel about your performance throughout the season, and what are you looking forward to in the LMDH next season?
I think overall did pretty well. I wanted to mainly stay with the Porsche, but after the update they ruined that, and BMW seemed to be best car. So once again, thank you to Perry for making the livery. As far as the LMDH, I have no clue. Like, that's the fastest car I've ever driven on iRacing, so it's definitely going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit different for everybody in here, right? You guys have, I think the fastest have been the M8s, maybe, when you guys were racing those a few seasons back. But should be entertaining and a good time. I'm sure you guys will put on a show for us. But 2nd place tonight, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yes, once again, thank you, Adam, for putting on the broadcast. Love to watch it back after. Scott, Brian, Dean, those guys for hosting this league, and then Perry for making the livery.
Awesome, man. Well, congrats on a great run tonight, and excited to see you back in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to 3rd place finisher now. That's Mr. Steve Ficacci. Steve, this is Adam in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy?
I do. How are you?
Hey, pretty good, man. And wow, what a night of racing for you. You charge through the field in both races. You take the win in race 1 and a podium here in race number 2. Just describe the night from your perspective, and also knowing the championship was on the line.
Yeah, I kind of felt like going to this race, it would be between Darren, myself, and Michael Pavolano. I did a few laps because I didn't own the track till this week. And I was like, I think this is one of those tracks where you can't rely on the ABS and the traction control to save you. It's just so many sweeping corners and trail braking. And, I felt most of the field with their skill level, we're just going to struggle. So I kind of thought it was just going to be kind of up to us 3 and, whoever would kind of get through the the field the quickest. I feel like I had some lucky breaks in that first race. There was like a 6-car pileup or so on lap 3, I think it was, where they also went to turn 1 and they all got together. I'm not really sure. Nobody seemed to go for the apex, but that kind of worked out in my favor. And then in the second race, I got through the field fairly quick, but the guys who started up front had a 5-second or 6-second, somewhere in there gap to when I finally got through, and I whittled it down a little bit. Just wasn't enough time, and I wasn't making enough ground, so I had to settle for third. Darren was behind me and racing him with the championship, so I knew I had to stay on it. But I've raced with Darren a lot. He's a super clean racer, and he's fast, so you can never count him out. But it was a good race.
Yeah, in the championship, you came in 1 point behind him, and I'm looking at the standings now. They've updated, and looks like you are going to be the season champion, barring any penalties or anything, which I don't believe you would have gotten any tonight. It was incredibly clean.
I think I had a 0x night.
Yeah, it was almost a perfect night for you. But man, you win by 6 points over Darren at the end of it. How does that feel, and how do you feel moving forward into a car that's very different from this one for next season?
Well, first, I'm probably not going to race next season. I typically, or at least last season, I took off the summers just because, I'm trying to do more real racing and just don't have the time to devote to the sim. But this season was, like I said, it was good. I knew Stefan's usually fast. And I struggle in qualifying, and I noticed some guys like Stefan and Brian Kennedy, they can usually put some laps in qualifying. And I don't know if I don't want to say they lose pace during the race, but maybe their consistency's not there. But I usually, just because of qualifying, I'm rarely in the front anyway. And especially this season with the reverse, it kind of threw a wrench into it. But I don't think I had very many poles. But my strength was kind of getting through traffic, and it seemed to work out this season.
Yeah, definitely consistent as always, and up there, chasing wins, chasing podiums. And ultimately, you come away with the championship. So it'll be a shame if you're not out there in the next few weeks for the with the LMDH car. But it'll be fun to have you back when we get to the fall after the real world racing season kind of comes to a close as well. But man, what a season for you! Congrats on the championship. And is there anybody you want to give a shout out to for tonight's races and the championship?
Sure, I'd like to just thank the guys who support me, especially in my real racing, but it kind of carries over. So I'm going to thank SVC Psychology, Rick's Blix, the Office Service Company, and the Finest Butcher. Those guys have been helping me a lot in the real world. And then we got, my wife's always supportive of all this, and we have the guys who run the league, Scott Kim and SEO Mike. That kind of makes it all worth it, right?
Yeah, definitely cool to see all those partners, stay on board, and you guys are doing a great job running this league and putting on great races. So I think the competition's getting better and better each and every season.
Yeah.
And definitely.
Yeah, as we started, I'm not good with dates, but it's probably been 8 seasons or so since I started. And when I started, it was a guy, Chris, who I don't know if you broadcast with him.
Yep.
Chris Hill, and it was Darren and myself, and I feel like most of the races we probably won by 30 seconds, and that surely doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, everybody's definitely tightening it up and getting it figured out. So it's really nice to see. And I, as much as I do love winning, I don't. It sucks when it's easy. You like a fight, and it makes it worth it and more satisfying when it's harder to do.
Yep. Yeah, that is for sure. It's fun to fight to the top, and instead of it kind of, driving away with it. It's there's some challenge to that too. Not everybody can just take the lead and drive away with it like you can. But man, definitely fun to see you out here each and every race, and we wish you the best of luck in the coming racing seasons, and hope to see you back soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, Steve Ficacci, champion tonight here in the BMW Car Club of America National Capital Chapter Sim Racing League winter season. We're going to go now to another driver who is battling him for the championship and comes up just a little bit short. That is going to be Darren Treacle. Let's see if we can pull Darren in. Hey Darren, this is Adam in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy?
I do, Adam. How are you, sir?
Hey, pretty good, man. And wow, what a night for you. Fighting for the championship with Steve Ficacci. It came down to the wire in this one. You were ahead by 1 point coming into the night, and I believe points tabulated, you're going to end up second. But, man, you gave him a fight here tonight, racing with him and throughout the field. What do you take away from tonight's race and this season?
It was a good season. Tonight's race was good. I did get a little help with Steve not making it to the last week's race, but I just bought this track right before I jumped in tonight. So, and I decided to drive the Mercedes instead of the BMW. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to hear the rumble of the big V8, and since it was the last GT3 race, so I'm pleased with where I finished and how the race went. Me and Peter had a little incident, no harm, no foul. I lost the place, but to Steve, but it is what it is. But all in all, yeah, no, it was good. It was a good night. I had a lot of fun and feel like I did pretty good considering I just purchased the track and got about 20 minutes of practice before. Well, 30 minutes total between qualifying and 30 to 45 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Practice and qualifying, So
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty successful night, and
Yeah.
I agree with your point of hearing the rumble of the V8. That AMG Mercedes does make quite the noise. So fun way to end the season for you. But yeah, I believe it was second in race 1, fourth in race 2, and second in the championship. Are you going to be racing in the LMDH next season?
I don't know if I'm going to do the entire season, but because I don't own the car, but I will get it. And but I'll probably do some races, and for sure I think it'll be kind of fun to run that car. And I can't remember, I don't think we've done a prototype car, so
Yeah.
it will be interesting.
Yeah, I think the fastest car that you guys have done here since I've been broadcasting at least was I think the M8s.
Yeah, the
probably-
GTE cars. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think those are the fastest cars. So the what is it, LMDH?
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. So I wanted to say LMP car, but it's going to be interesting because those cars are fast. Things happen quickly. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole different experience than these GT3 cars. So I'm excited for it, and going to be fun to watch you guys duel it out in those machines, which are,
Yeah, absolutely.
those things are monsters. So it's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
going to be a challenge for, I think, even the best of the best in this league. It's going to be a whole different experience. But
I agree 100%.
man, what a season for you! Second in the points, and a good set of races tonight. Anybody you want to give a shout out to for this season?
Sure, I'll, give you a shout out first for, broadcasting these things and doing such a good job. Scott for taking the time, setting it up, listening to everybody moan and groan and complain and all that good stuff. And then, I'll give a shout out to myself, Treacle Insurance Agency. I believe SEO Mike is still on board. And, yeah, I'll give in Haggerty Motorsports. But other than that, I think that's about it, right? We don't have any other.
No, I think that's everybody. Yeah.
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 I think that covers it.
I think we're gonna have a few more sponsors next season. I know that we're able to do all 9 races, so excited to be able to do that with you guys and see those new partners with the league. But yeah, great season for you, Darren, and fun watching you as always. Best of luck with real world racing. I know that's coming up. I know Steve was mentioning that, so best of luck with all that, and enjoy a few weeks off, and hopefully we see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Darren. Darren Treacle, always fun to talk to after these things. Comes home in the 4th spot in race number 2, second in race 1, and second in the championship. It was between him and Steve Ficacci for that championship battle. And ultimately, Ficacci comes out on top. Go to the full race results in race number 2. Brian Kennedy takes the final sprint race win of the season. Clint Fletcher put on a fight for most of that race, comes home second. Ficacci third, Treacle fourth. Stefan Vappa comes home in the 5th spot. Michael Pavlano finishes in 6th. Jesse Brandon 7th. Jakub Bielik finishes in the 8th spot. Nice run after starting in 14th. Colin Kortnick finishes in the 9th spot, and Peter Lanik, after racing for the lead up there, comes home in the 10th position. Scott Kim 11th, Matthew Gazenda 12th, Carlos Bonds 13th, Robert Benson 14th, Matthew Stover will round out the field, who started this one in 15th. Harry Duncan did not take the green flag. He has scored 16th in this race. But we do want to thank you so much for tuning in this season with the BMW Car Club of America National Capital Chapter Sim Racing League. Really appreciate all the admins, the drivers, the sponsors that make this possible. And we are looking forward to doing all 9 races next season in the LMDH machines. So you won't want to miss those starting on the 23rd, I believe. So that's going to be 3 weeks from today. We'll be back with the league here. And should be a really fun time to watch these guys in high-powered machines, some of the fastest cars on the sim, duke it out. So as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We will be back on Tuesday night with the Below the Double Yellow Premier Series as well. So tune in. They're going to be racing it up at Phoenix in that one. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will catch you all next time.